Welcome, everybody. We're so happy that you have joined us for today's Polaris MEP webinar. We're especially happy because this is the kickoff of a week of webinars devoted to the 5S Lean principles. Polaris MEP has been running these webinars to help our manufacturers in Rhode Island grow and become more competitive. We are part of the NIST National Network of Manufacturing Extension Partnerships. That's what the MEP and Polaris MEP stands for. And today we're so excited that Nathan Bonds is going to be kicking off this series focusing on lean manufacturing because he knows firsthand the results that it can create for manufacturers of any size in Rhode Island to help them get to their goals. So Nathan is going to be going through the principle of 5S and some great insights and resources for the first about 30 minutes or so. And then we'll have plenty of time for questions and answers. So if we can, Nathan, can we show the folks how they can submit questions? If this is your very first webinar, you will notice that on the Zoom control bar, it has the little chat, that's number 6 there. That's how we'd love to hear your questions. If you can go ahead and submit them to me. You can also use that for other reasons. If you are experiencing problems with troubleshooting, any of those things, please send it my way and we'll help you. You will notice that number 1 is mute, and we are muting you all as you come in and stopping your video, and that is so that we can make sure that we hear Nathan clearly and also so that the recording of this webinar can catch everything. We're doing that for folks who couldn't attend today, but we know that they want to be able to learn these same growth tools that Nathan will be sharing. And with that, I get to jump out and Nathan gets to jump in. Take it away, Nathan.
Hi, good afternoon, and thank you all for joining us today. And I'm so honored to spend the next few moments with you. I've been in manufacturing since 1995 and have served in multiple aspects of production, operations, engineering, quality, and management roles. And one of my favorite 5S experiences was with a company in Providence, Rhode Island in 2013. The atmosphere was dark, it was dangerous, and it was extremely messy. Through the use of implementing the 5S principles, the floors, the walls were painted white. Nothing on the shelves anymore. I took all these shelves down in this paint mixing area. It was the hub of the entire organization. And if you were authorized to enter after we had implemented these things, a person could quickly identify, well, where are the tools? Well, where are the specific paints that I need? Well, where are the specific solvents that I need to put in those specific paints? And we actually had trained a new person, and it took us about 50% of the time to train that new person just by implementing the 5S system. You know, when the paint line technicians would come, they actually had like a self-checkout area. When the hand spray technicians would come, they actually knew where they could pick up their paint. And then what I most loved about this process and this project was that when they needed to order more, we actually put a visual system in place so that the paint mixing technician could actually know who needs paint, when do they need the paint, and where does the paint come from, and so on and so forth. So life truly seemed smoother and happier in that working environment. And it was hard to go backwards when that system was in place. So here's what we'll be covering in our short time together. And I look forward to the interaction with me at the end. What is 5S? How can it help mitigate the impact that we've been going through the past 11 weeks? And now we're into recovery. How do we get started with SORT and the lean manufacturing way? And then again, at the end, we're gonna have time for for questions and answers. So 5S is a process. I'm going to say that word a lot today. It is a process. It is not a spirit. It is a process. Or some may say 5S is a lean tool that was coined and made popular by the Toyota company in Japan. It's based on 5 principles, and they are sort, that's the one I'm going to be talking about today, set in order for tomorrow. Ted is going to knock it out of the ballpark. Or some might say straighten with the British accent. And then we have shine. It's time to shine. And then the 4th step is standardize and then sustain. So it's a standardized step-by-step process. The word lean reflects the idea that your company is continuously improving in its processes so that they eliminate waste. You know, here's the things that are the core of a lean, what is lean? Company values. You guys have culture. You have behaviors and guiding principles, standardized work, standardized processes, continuous improvement, employee involvement. Now more than ever, we need them. And structured problem-solving processes. The steps of 5S will help you and I simplify any activity so that we can add value. So they'll also help you add safety measures for the coronavirus as we're exploring this week. And waste, just want to talk about this very briefly, is any activity that consumes our resources but creates no value for our customer. So what is 5S? So we all want to be more competitive. We want to win more business. We want to keep workers longer and have our teams be more productive. So 5S is here's the word again, process for continuous improvement that will help us reach those goals. You know, 5S creates the foundation for our teams to start to develop solving problems. So you guys, there's an underlying thing that we want to do in this process. It's all about 5S, but it's about having people solve problems. We start to change the work environment in a physical way to change the mental approach in how we approach problems. This is where we start. So we're going to physically change the way the work's being done, and then our mental capacity, the way we think about the work, then that will follow. So that's why 5S, the principle, the system, the discipline, is the foundation for the building blocks that make up our lean house that you see right now. So efficient plant layouts. I know you guys have been really dealing with that as far as social distancing. And then we have teamwork that's needed to tackle everyday customer orders and unusual systems, unusual situations like coronavirus. They're all possible if we've got 5S strongly as our foundation. Standardization, which my friend Phil is going to be talking about on day 4, you better not miss it, is the process of establishing repeatability and predictability of process. So if you're not writing this down, write it down. If you're writing it down, write it down. Stability. Stability is a precondition for a successful lean journey. Well, what is normal? Well, what is abnormal? Well, we start to begin that journey since we've practiced 5S as the foundation. So what are the 5S's? The 5S is a process. Some of you might even have this up on your walls, but it's a great time to review You could also say it's a journey or a movie that has sequences of actions and a story plot. So the first S is sort, keeping only necessary items in the workplace. We sort with the intent to eliminate the items not needed for value-added activities. We only are going to keep what is essential. The second S is set in order. That's tomorrow with Ted. You better not miss it. It's when you arrange items and people to promote efficient workflow. Sorry, couldn't talk there. Number 3 is shine. It's time to shine. You're going to enjoy that session with Chris on day 3. You don't want to miss it. So the third is shine. You clean the area so it's neat, it's tidy, and it's safe. The fourth S, standardize. This is setting the standards for a consistently organized workplace. And the fifth and final, that is sustain. So maintaining and reviewing those standards. This is how we gain traction. This is how we stay on the ball. This is how we don't deteriorate. So the order, before I move to the next slide, I just want to make sure you know the order in which you do these steps is highly important, and you must follow the sequence. You don't get to the end of the fight sequence in the movie when you haven't even driven in the car for the actors to show up, right? So I would not move to the next S or move on to set in order until you're at least 85% of the way done with sort, or you're 85% with completion in the S that you're working on before you move on to the next one. So this is where you guys interact with us. So let's use the chat feature. Remember, number 6, Aaron described to take a quick poll. So answer this question. How far along do you think your company is in following the 5S principles? Use the chat to give yourself a grade on the scale of 1 to 5. 1 would be just beginning, and 5 would be at a master level.
All right, Nathan, it looks like we've got people kind of all over the board here. We've got several 2s, meaning they have begun but are still in those early stages.
Okay.
We've got 1 who I guess is exposing themselves to these ideas today. We also have somebody who's a little further along. They're at a 3.
Wow, all right.
But I think most of the folks, I haven't seen anybody claim mastery over 5S
Wow,
yet.
okay.
It's mostly 1s and 2s right now.
Excellent. So these answers, they're interesting. And I just want to say that what you've just done in this poll is you're authentic. So one way to know that you're going to have a successful lean journey is that you must be honest with yourself and respect for people. So as we relentlessly strive for recovery, some of you might have fallen backwards because you might have been at a 3. You might have been well on your way to a 4. And that's okay. Because when we come into these unclear and unknown territories, like we all experienced over the last 11 weeks, it really wreaked havoc on a lot of our processes. Again, it's not a spirit, it's a process. So, others might have gone from a 1 to a 3 because you said, I'm going to take the reins of this. And you had to jump forward. It made you act. You had to jump forward and change for survival. So thank you guys for taking the poll. I really appreciate that. So, if you weren't sure how to answer that poll, but it sounds like you guys did a great job. At the end of this, when we're not together, we have another tool that you guys can do, And I love what assessments do, because really it gives you that chance to be vulnerable. It gives you that chance to open up and really assess yourself and say, you know, I'm going to stop and I'm going to fix. I'm going to look back and see, where are we at in this journey? So after today's webinar, we've really created a really cool self-assessment that you see on the screen. And it poses questions to help you identify where you are in the 5S lean journey and suggest next steps. So I don't know about you guys, but we all need someone to lean on. So we'll get into that near the end of the session. But my next step to start us off is to talk about, Nate, sort. Oh, that's right. That's where we're at. So what is sort? So sorting objects by size and shape and color. I thought this was a really cool thing that I found on Wikipedia. And it's a developmental milestone for cognition, for learning, for thinking, for problem solving by age 2. So some of us have been doing this a long time. My hands are raised. That children begin to understand the concept of sorting. So, you know, let's begin and take the first step. So today is only, believe me, it's only a 30,000 foot view of this wonderful lean principle. And I only want to look at this tool regarding how it could apply to COVID-19 and your workplace, your work cell, your department, whoever's joined me. So sort is the first step, but you know what? It's the most important step. You go from a place of thinking, a place from rest, into a place of action, motion, momentum, and inertia. Sort is one of my favorite steps. And I have to be honest, it's like watching HGTV. It's demo day, right? So like any discipline, playing a musical instrument, dancing, a particular sport or a card game, one only gets better by practice. So this learn by doing method cannot be skipped. So guess what? Everyone that's joined me, there's no shortcuts in this lean principle. Sorry to say it, it's all about practice. And you've had a lot of practice over the past 11 weeks. So when we sort, we practice going through all the items in a particular work site. So deciding, okay, hey, this is needed. Okay, hey, this is not needed to perform value-added work. And disposing of those items that were not needed. They were not essential. So this exercise of sort is not only mentally challenging, those of you who have cleaned out closets, pantries, you know what I'm, Christmas decorations. So it can be challenging at first without a red tag process. So that's a part of the sort. And it can create frustration in other areas if your unneeded items for that specific area get moved to someone else's items, your unneeded junk, and you didn't tell them, right? So that is why sort is the most important first step, and it is a process that must be agreed upon. Well, what are we going to agree upon, Nate? We're going to agree upon, well, what stuff will we get rid of? Who will get rid of it? How will you get rid of it? And so on. So can you guys just join with me shortly and look at these next 4 pictures? You work for me now. You just started today and you work here, and this is a printing company. So while I'm asking you questions, you're about to do the job, I want you to think about the questions that I'm about to ask you. So join with me and go with me on this journey. So what paper does our company currently use? It's in the third picture from left. Where is it? How do you know? Is this where all the paper is kept? When the paper gets cut, where should you put it? How would anyone be able to see where you put it? When you're cutting or someone else is cutting, how will you be able to get to that paper that you need if someone else is cutting the paper? Now, I just want to let you guys know that the paper is extremely heavy that you need, and what you typically will grab is about 50 to 80 pounds. Most of the paper is not accessible without a ladder. And when we get a new shipment in of new paper, hey, where should you put it? Do you guys have any answers for me? So most of the paper needed on that rack in the third picture, if you can't count the racks, there were 12 racks. So when we did sort, we discovered that most of it was damaged, old, or wasn't even what the company used anymore for their current customers or their customer demand. Don't go anywhere. Don't mentally check out on me. Now, we've gonna fast forward like a movie, and we're in the middle of sort. Are you guys there with me? Great answer. So now go with me here. Only the paper that the company is using, we discovered that we only need 2 shelves worth. It's in the third picture from the left with the lady in shorts, and it's on the second and third shelf. You guys just started yesterday. So there's only enough area to keep that paper. So you guys, we used the same shelving unit. We sorted it out and only kept what we needed. So you might ask, well, Nathan, what needs to be cut? Where do I put that? Well, that's a great question. So what needs to be cut? There's a blue line on the top shelf. It's the space that is farthest from the female operator, and that's where we're going to put the paper that needs to be cut. The cut paper is placed on that table so that the operator will be able to use it. And then if they need to trim it, they'll put it in the space where her hand is. So the printing operation can clearly see where we're going to place the paper that we need them to trim. If you're a cutting operator, you know where you're going to trim that paper because it's a spot, and you have a place to put the cut paper. And if you're the printing operator, you know exactly where to put the trimmed and where you can take the paper that was cut. Now, if you'll notice, there was an 83.3% decrease in space to keep the current paper. We went from 12 shelves holding paper to now just 2. So there's a home for placing cut paper. There's a home for things to have for trimmed. And you guys don't know this, but we're not searching for the paper. We're not wasting time. And there's no more ladder. The ladder has been sorted out because we don't need the ladder. It's placed in the red tag area. And again, I want to highlight that nothing will fall on the cutting operator from one of the shelves, like the 50 to 80 pound paper, or if there were any tools stored above. And, you know, the cutting machine operator can literally have a place to work and feel safe And for people, if the customer demand is not enough, the cutting operator, because of cross-training, can either be the printing operator or the cutting operator. So here are the sort benefits. So 5S is a framework that helps manufacturers compete and win. I would be remiss if I did not mention that any lean tool is done under the dome. Just imagine, you guys, if you're in a football stadium, which we haven't been in a while, and some of us really miss it, or the arch or the dome is safety. We're never going to design standardized work, sort, set in order, without knowing that we're under the dome or the arch of safety. The safety of all individuals is taken into account when we get rid of items or tools that the team uses. We're always focused on safety first. So we also look at the why certain tools are being used, in the way that they're being used, and at the point, because we have to sort them out. So we should make a decision to get the employees a tool that is safer or easier to use, or train operators in the best way to use those certain tools or equipment. So they have many benefits. So with sort, you can simplify tasks. If there's only one set of working tools, then only one operator is allowed in that area or on that task at any given time. Does that make sense? So if you need to do a job with a specific PPE and it's kept in the same area each time and never more than what is needed, the decisions for your employees are easier to be made and quicker to be made. You know, only using the essential space needed to do the task to keep our employees safe and free from injuries. That is a beautiful benefit. Trip hazards, they're gone. Clear aisleways, sufficient aisleways. If aisleway space has narrow lanes, but yet we see that the area we're working in has large parts, then we're going to design the right sized aisleways and space needed for our employees and for the product. So rightly sized adequate space for specific tasks that is happening for today's process, this week's process, last week's process, not last month, not our process 12 weeks ago, not our process a year ago, right now. You can be more careful in purchasing items. This item only uses powdered gloves. So to have any other items that aren't there, they've been sorted out. So you can purchase only a certain size of powdered gloves because you know that each person trained will only use a medium-sized glove. So it's common when I'm working with manufacturers to discover they had many duplicates of an expensive tool or supply item. You know, because things weren't sorted and they couldn't find them, so the team just keeps buying those tools. In one instance specifically, this printing company needed a 6-inch line gauge. They're kind of expensive, and because they couldn't find them, because there wasn't a home for them, like the paper, they just kept purchasing more. So, you know, I also wanted to talk about that the process changed due to cost. And so there was a company that was using a tool that only needed to measure 40 grams of a product. But because we didn't sort it out, they also had the previous tool that would hold 60 grams of product. And a new employee came in, and because those tools weren't sorted out, that new employee used too much of the product. And now we have some quality issues. But how did they know? Because they were trying to do the best that they can do. So the last two benefits are really clear when we talk about safety and the coronavirus. Fewer hazards, less clutter, reduces what we need to clean. And these above benefits help our people remain stable. Remember, I told you, I said at the beginning, stability is a precondition for a successful lean journey. We gotta be stable. So we are intentionally creating a safe environment from the world around our employees. When they come into this area, they feel safe, and things that could hurt them, things that are non-essential, that are not needed, have been removed. So how can SORT mitigate COVID-19's impacts? So I just want to click through these. There's less to infect and worry about. There's less time spent on cleaning. It's easier to spread out people. I thought that when we went on the journey, that's why I wanted to show you guys, as if you were my employees, how we would go about the SORT process. You can sort those people out and spread those people out based on your current customer demand, because we're in recovery mode. Things might be a little slower, or things right now are crazier than they've ever been. So we have to figure out how many people do we actually need for this process. And again, items where they belong, reduces movement into other areas, needless contact. Don't do it. If it's not needed, don't do it. And then we look at eliminating duplicates, and that's what I was talking about with the 6-inch line gauge. Could be micrometers, could be SOPs, that an employee walks into the area and says, you know, I don't even know what the latest revision of. You have revision 3, you have revision 4. Get the old documents out of there. They're going to waste time on reading through, oh, this is the new. And when you only have the tools that are needed, if that employee at the end of the shift is supposed to clean those tools, they only have a few to do. You could actually time how long it takes. But if someone else is coming in to clean, not that same employee, you want them to clearly see this area needs to be cleaned, and I'm only cleaning the tools that are in this area. So when I said you can sort people, again, we want to do this based on the current customer demand. As we open up for recovery, some of you have been more busy than others. Some of you have been kind of slow. So we want to make sure that we're really dating that process. And I wrote down something here that I really like, is that opportunities for improvement are about systems and process issues, not people. Being present in the space is the best way to spot these opportunities. So that's why we start with SORT. So Nathan, how do we get started? And that's a great question. So we're going to determine who will stop just to do a direct observation of these 3 things. Do you guys remember this old song? This is how we do it, right? So you might have people who have not been working, or they were working remotely, that you could bring back to do this specific process, but you should determine a certain person. What are they going to look at? They're going to look at, where does the material handling take place? They're going to look at, what does the product do? How long does it sit before this machine? When it comes out of the machine, how many come out? And then however many come out, what does the person in that area, what are their hands doing? Are they snapping things together? Are they measuring? Are they testing? Are they gluing? Are they assembling? Are they sanding? What are they doing? And how many parts do they have to deal with? And so then, this is what I love, is that you question really every detail. You're going to, is this the best place to do this? Is this the right person who should be doing this. We get to date that process again. And you get to draw a picture, because a picture says 1,000 words. And not only is the person not in contact with the person working, but you can practice this social distancing by it gives this person an idea of, oh, some people might call it a spaghetti diagram. Some people might call it a process flow chart. You don't have to get technical. Just show where those 3 things that I just talked about are happening. Draw a picture and put it in a place where people can stand away, make it big, and so, start asking questions. And just question, when is the best time to do that? Why do we do it in that way? Ask those questions. And then at the end, you can how is the best way so that we can simplify, which leads us again to sort. So that's the beginning of that process. So getting started with sort is we get to take action. Remember I said you're on an HGTV show, and this is the fun show. Everyone was determined we're gonna do it in the kitchen. You don't bring your demo crew to the bathroom when it's a kitchen reno, right? So we take action. So we determine the area that the unneeded items will go, not someone else's department, in a predetermined area that you can put it where it's visual and other people can see what's accumulating because there's momentum, and who is responsible to take those there. How long will they be able to stay there? Is it 6 months? Is it 2 months? How long is it? Because another department might need to use those. But after a while, if it's 2 weeks or a month, you guys have to take action. It's been sitting here for 2 months. Are we going to sell it? Are we going to donate it? Are we going to put it back in our area? If the customer demand increases and we need that tool back there. So again, it's a process. And will it be on a shared drive? Will it be in Google Sheets? How can we create something that's visual to all without touching it like as a checklist, if you will? Now, the general sort how-to, this again can challenge you, but I absolutely love this through sort. When you have the one is best mentality, this creates better communication. So think about this. Searching almost becomes non-existent. Time for questions is greatly reduced. One tool, one machine, one box, one set of materials, one SOP. All other unneeded, unessential items are not in this area. If there are 2, the broken one might not get thrown out if you didn't do your sort right. And a new operator or transfer employee might try their best to use this tool and it's broken. They could get hurt or damage the parts they're working on, and now it's after the fact. Having just one boosts the communication as they have a say. If it's not in the area, I don't even start working. So again, it moves me into, it enables workers to manage and control their own areas. So they'll be unable to do the job, so they know immediately, I can't do this. I'm going to turn on a red light. I'm going to raise my hand. I'm going to find my supervisor. However you guys notify that you need help, then you notify that you need help. And that enables a worker for them to be able to control their own areas. Workers should be very easy to see so quickly, like an EMT, like a first responder, like a fire, someone who works in the fire department. If the environment is ready to go, I am in a state of readiness. I can do my job. So if the environment is safe to start in, what they need is in the area and only one is there, that's the one they should be using. The folks that get Kaizen have a great illustration of the 30-second rule. And guess what? It's about 30 seconds. Enjoy this very quickly. All right. So now it's time for questions and answers.
That it is, Nathan. Nathan, thank you so much for kicking us off with this great explanation of what the entire 5S process is. I've now said the word. As well as being able to understand what is involved in specifically sort. So we've got a couple of questions that have come in through chat. And the first one says, isn't sorting just the same thing as taking out the trash?
Wow, that's a great question, Erin. So sorting is unlike taking out the trash because you've sorted the trash and you had a determined place to throw it away, right? So you threw your trash in a bin in a certain location. And what sort is that, you know, there's often a gap between how the processes look on paper and how they're executed in real life. You know, in a work process, items that are in the area might not have been there in the actual SOP or the work instructions. So when you go to sort, you actually need to have an area that, where do I even put this when I know that it's unneeded? What is the system in which I can remove the item? Because you know, you have quality, you have engineering, you have supervisors, so you can't just get rid of equipment without telling anyone, and that's what you do with trash. You don't really need an authority, if you will, or if you would say guidance or team approval to throw a trash away. But in sort, there really does need to be a process, because once you've removed that item, someone should know where it is, how many there are, why was it sorted out. There's backstory that you need to know, and that's why that is the sort process.
Excellent. The next question is actually, since you had said this was about sort as it relates to COVID-19, how long does a sort step normally take? This person asks.
Wow, so that's another great question. So when you go to sort, what I've experienced with a lot of companies that can be very aggressive in their lean journey, we have a corporate visit. So we have to do 5S. And we just want to 5S the entire printing department. And again, that scope is too large. So what I encourage most companies to do is to pick a specific work bench, because there's inputs coming from another process, and there's actually outputs of that workbench that are going into another process. So we really need to look at like a workbench, or this is the CMP printing area. It's like one type of area that does a specific thing, so that as we practice, remember how we talked about with music or dancing, that we can be able to do this sort process, which typically could take about 3 hours for everyone to be involved. We already have the shareholders, the stakeholders, we have a predetermined area, and now we're going to physically take out everything of that area and say, literally, as the team is standing around, do we really need this? Is this really the best place to do this? And if it isn't, it goes to the red tag. If it is, now we're going to move it back into that area. But I'm not going to talk about that because that's set in order for tomorrow.
Thank you for not stealing Ted's thunder. And I can definitely hear again what you're saying about the idea that this is not only a process, but it has to be a team conversation about this, because two different people might have a different perspective, and that would probably go to your guidance to question everything. Question it from one person's input, question it from another.
Yeah, in fact, Aaron, and I know this wasn't a question, but it will be very brief, is that it could be a whole nother webinar, is how do you actually pick your 5S team? So we really want to be involved with someone in management. We want quality to be there. We want engineering to be there. We want possibly even the upstream and the downstream processes, because we don't have all of the knowledge in this specific pilot area. And we could say, we don't need that. But without the help of our, you've heard it through COVID, stronger together, we need the power of our team to make a team decision, to make this process based on our customer demand. So that was a great point. That was a great question.
Excellent. So now we got another question here, and it says, with sorting, could you use different colors for different lengths of time? For example, 30 days is red and 60 days is blue. We saw you showed that red tag, but do you use different colors for different lengths of time? How does that work?
Yes, so I, as a coach and as a trainer and facilitator, you can do it all different ways. One size fits all. And I don't want to open a can of worms. There are some driving factors behind 5S. And one of those factors is right for me. It's right for, just say a company, Wardwell Brady. It's right for Khaleesi Bakery. And then the other one is We Care. So typically, Aaron, I would say, though, red tagging really does create that for all companies to be able to say, it has to go to the red tag area. And I don't want to steer people wrong, but yes, we've had other colors. If green, we had these red tagged, we had half-inch dots and 1-inch dots. And we said, okay, guys, just for fun, because we're well into our journey, we've done this many times, we're going to put yellow, because we don't know if we even use this. We're going to put green because we know it stays in this area. And we're going to put a blue dot on this because we know it goes to the other area. But if I put it in Erin's area and she doesn't know about it, she's going to be upset with me. Why are these blue stickered items in my area? So again, everything should be red tagged if it's not essential. But yes, there are some creative ideas that you can do if your team is agreed upon it, because it's a process. Does that make sense, Erin?
It does, and I think that kind of goes to the second part of this, and so does Charlie, who asked the question, also says it makes sense. But I think it also goes to the second part of it, which is that length of time. If this is a process, we have to agree also up front, how quickly am I going to come back to this red tag area and say, did we make the right decisions? Does something really belong here? So, does it have to be 30 days? Does it have to be 60 days? Should it be longer? What is the kind of the benchmark for how long we put them into the red tag area before we cut them out?
Yeah, and Erin, so again, there's something that we would go through with a company called the red tag policy, and that policy really lines out, again, what we're agreeing on, what is the pilot area, who really is going to be able to take those items there, how long, to your point, how long are they going to be able to get there? Because I'm just saying, as I've professionally done this for many years, if your team has a wonderful, remember, I'm just going back to the HGTV time where it's demo day, and you had demo day and you did it in 3 days. but you never installed the counters. Do you know how much momentum and gas that takes out of your team? So again, if you have a red tag area and you put all of the items that are unessential or not needed, and they sit there for 6 months, it's the worst. It's like a pin stuck in a helium balloon to your team, and it will just gas them out. So again, that is all a part of that red tag policy. You have to predetermine what are we going to do and then stick to our rules scrupulously. That's why I said it's right for me or for that company, and we care.
Well, I'm afraid that's all we have time for questions today. So I'm going to mute myself and let you wrap up. But I am going to let everybody know, please go ahead and if you got additional questions, send them my way. We'll have Nathan follow up with you. And Nathan, how do we want to close this up? What do we want to leave people with as a takeaway?
Yes. So again, I'm honored for your time. I had a great time with you guys. And so when you're not with me or Aaron, and you're in the privacy of your office, or maybe some of you have gone back to work, and we're so happy about that we reviewed the 5S Lean principles and talked in depth about the SORT principle, but give the self-assessment a try. I gave it a try. It was really neat. So it'll really give you a baseline for how your company right now, today, the beginning of a week, is doing on SORT or any of the 5 steps that we'll talk about this week. And then lastly, if we didn't have time for your question, we at Polaris MEP and myself personally, we work with manufacturers all over Rhode Island who are at all different levels. And there's nothing wrong with that at a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4. And they're at different points or different levels of their 5S journey. So I hope that you'll do the honor of talking with me about your goals for productivity and for safety, and to see if 5S, because it's the foundation, can help you. Thank you guys so much, and I'd be honored to personally talk to all of you.